gathered here at a conference literally called Games Gathering. It's quite an interesting name and also quite fitting. So I went to the dictionary. When you look up the word gathering up in the Oxford Dictionary, you find a special assemblance or a meeting held for a specific reason. So what's the specific purpose of us actually being here? Is it networking? Is it learning? Is it games? Well, it can't be, of course, any of those reasons. So say, for example, that the reason to come here was to talk about games, for example. If that was the reason, why didn't we all just connect on the internet? Say with the networking. Say if we came here for the specific purpose of network, why did we all just connect on LinkedIn? I'll tell you why. Because the last time I checked, we still live in the actual world. I believe we are here to meet up with people, flesh and blood. So every time I go to tech events, they always talk about the future of media in actual terms of tech. You know, the future of media is always AR or VR or mixed reality, but it's never the people. I fundamentally believe that the future of media actually is connected to people. I've taken with me here Richard Dagnell from Howdoo. We are going to talk about this coin term that we are calling media. We believe that the future of media is not wholly dependent on computing power, but rather on how to present the product to the user, how those users interact with each other. This media term takes on user interaction, lifestyle branding, but also on why we buy things and quote-unquote, why we love things. Now, I love games. I've been fascinated recently with this concept of gamification in the energy industry and in education, but now especially in music. When we play, at least in my opinion, we escape reality and we enter fantasy. And when we do this, we can get the opportunity to overcome certain barriers. So take, for example, kids when they play, when they meet for the first time, they often communicate through play. So, in my opinion, in the purest state of play, we can become something else. Right. And this also applies to real life. I mean, when we go to work, we take on a role of a police officer, businessman, chef, so forth. This is one of the reasons why gamification in the working industry has just been going exceptionally well. We give the people the opportunity to compete, rank up. Right, and this is just the concept of the army, basically. You get medals, you rank up, plus your workplace is literally sometimes a battlefield. So, gamification means transformation. Right, so it's a methodology that has been applied to several businesses, but it almost feels like a gimmick, right? It's always an add-on to something. The reason? I don't know. We all know that good game design comes with more than just giving people points. Right, it's a holistic experience. It's an intense emotional experience and super engaging. It's so engaging that sometimes I wish that my life was a game, right? That the screen would actually become the street. But when we think about it, our life is almost like a game, right? We compete in the game of life. We want to get money, we want to rank up, right? It's almost like a game, and sometimes we even talk about the game, right? When you network, when you date, and so forth, we often talk about the game. Well, this is also the reason why we buy things and just consumerism as a whole. We don't buy things we need, we buy things we want. So a business that's offered this kind of a value proposition is a really good business. A business that offers real life value out of a digital experience is a fantastic business. So an example of this kind of business is, for example, Tinder. Tinder gives you the opportunity to meet people in reality. I know this is an odd example, by the way, but still, it's a pretty interesting example, right? Because it takes on a game we all know that is dating, and it offers like real life value on top. Although this is an odd example, I think this gives us a hint of what the future of media might look like. That is, real value out of gamification tactics. And that's step one in actually understanding a media. So if a tactic like this is going to be applied to other businesses, simplicity is the key. The tech has to be super easy to use, plus the user has to have communal value of actually using the product. So this leads us to the company that I work for. This company is founded on the belief that music is much more than sound, but a way to communicate how a dress, talk, and feel. So it's a social universe that has not been packaged into one comprehensive product. We found out that we could gamify the music business and came up with a mobile platform where you can create, distribute, and socialize the music. It's on a sweet spot of social media, games, and music. We found out that you could gamify music as well, and there was no platform out there for the user to get instant gratification from his musical taste and abilities in a quote-unquote musical ecosystem. And we do exactly that. A gamified social media experience where you create your own avatar as you try to maximize your potential within the platform in a role-playing fashion. That is, you take on a role known within the music industry as you try to promote yours or someone else's music. So here are a few slides on that, basically. So you create your own avatar, and we're incentivizing him. So when he reaches a certain benchmark within the platform, we give him rewards. That is badges. And those badges are, for example, musical outfit items, loops, marketing campaigns, and so forth. You create the music step by step intuitively without any requirement of a musical background whatsoever. So this system invites, for example, cooperation with users, co-branding of music, plus a developer, where actual producers can add their loops into the system. So here's the big idea, right? When you watch Justin Bieber on the screen, you want to become Justin Bieber. That's what pop music is. And we give you this opportunity. So you can literally become the content, become the music. So we are gamifying the music business. Right? So it's as relevant that you create content that is culturally valuable to the user that you're actually trying to target, just like in the music business. Right? So by doing this, we want to recreate music. We want to give the masses a voice. The big idea is to merge actual with digital, fantasy with reality, community with creativity. So what I'm generally interested in is this. When does our digital and actual identity merge together? Right, so what's the fundamental difference between us dressing up for real life as just us communicating through Instagram? Right, so what's the fundamental difference? What's the difference between augmented reality and just reality? Right, so augmentation means to expand on something, right? Extend on something. Isn't that just the same thing when we actually pick a car? So what does your car tell about you? Your taste in life, your economical background, something that I'm not going to imply here. There's a reason why some car brands are actually named after animals. Mustang, Cobra, Stingray, Jaguar. You become an animal, or at least you can relate to that animal. Right, so you're extending your identity on a transportational vehicle. That's the only thing that a car is. So, are there any examples in the digital world where this actually happens? MMO games? Kind of. You become a character, you can talk to people, you can even get married online. But it's still really to the digital left, right? In the middle, we have, for example, social media stars. It's people on the internet. It's a curated reality, of course, but still, it's people posting pictures of the internet, so to say. Right? It's not us becoming the digital. So, I believe there must be something there in between. Right, so augmented reality is an interesting example from a tech perspective, but it doesn't really bridge the gap between, like in this identity creation process, right? You wouldn't dress like your Instagram filters, for example, would you? So, another example where actual content becomes reality is related to the MMO games, when we cosplay, LARP, and so forth. It's only confined to a small section of the market, but still it's creative communities coming together with ideally gamification. And I think that's step 2 in actually understanding a media, what the future of media might actually look like. Okay, so let's take this idea a little bit further. Say if LARPing, cosplaying, and so forth would be socially acceptable, it would be mainstream, it would not be confined to a small section of the market. Say that that was a reality. Say that we would have a behavioral framework around this, right, where people would engage similarly to the content, where they literally transform themselves into the content. Right, many factors here have to come into place. The tech has to be super simple to use. It would have to be, of course, fun to play. There would have to be a communal factor to all of this, plus real value here is the key. The user has to get real value out of actually using the product. Right, so we see this emergence of this like post-digital user all around the internet. Right, for example, on user-generated content sites like 9gag, Reddit, and so forth, people communicate there through memes, right? Same with applications like Snapchat, TikTok, and like so forth. It's a similar thing, but it's still social media sites, right? It's not us becoming the digital. Right, so for that to happen, we would have to create tools or give the user the tools to create themselves. And this total self-expression. And we believe we have a behavioral framework that's close to that, and we are calling it M-Media. And M-Media is social media-driven platforms where consumers use gamified behaviors to express themselves through content. That's M-Media. It's where actual meets digital, creativity meets community, fantasy meets reality. We happen to be representing M-Media through music, Howdoo through finance. So what we're actually doing, the reason why we are at a gaming conference, is that we want to change the conversation around the space. We want to disrupt the space through people's minds and put lifestyle branding back at the top of the talks of tech. Right, so if you do this, if you put the brand in your hand, if you activate creativity to a new level and add a new secret ingredient to the mix, that is play, sky's the limit. When we do this, and if you do this, we could have physical extensions out of digital products. But that's where you would actually dress like your Instagram filter. But when there would be no barriers in communication, digital, actual, anything like that. You could literally transform yourself into the content. And we are calling it M-Media. And to achieve that dream, we have to go mainstream. Thank you.
So, if we're going to talk about actually changing the way social media works, or M-Media, we have to agree a couple of things together first. So let's start off with something we agree with. English actors are the best in the world, aren't they? Yeah, of course. So the best Batman must have been Christian Bale. True? Yeah. So did you like Heath Ledger when he played the Joker? So he gave some very good advice. He said, if you're good at something, don't do it for free. Good advice? So all of you in the audience, including myself, are very good at using our mobile phones. We're good at looking at any kind of social media. Maybe we like watching games. So you might use Twitch. How much are you paid when you are watching Twitch? Nothing? Why not? You are of value, aren't you? Oh, you pay them to watch. Oh, okay. So what about if we changed it and said that when you are watching someone play games, or when you are liking a photo that someone has uploaded, that you should be rewarded because you are the audience. And all of these social platforms are nothing without an audience. But more importantly, they're nothing without content providers. And these content providers actually become influencers, don't they? And the reason they become influencers is because of us, the audience. It's because we're there. So if we actually really want to dramatically change how we're going to move forward as a worldwide community, we actually now start to have to change the social media platforms and what we want to get out of them. Because at the moment, a social media platform, in some ways, has tried to make itself more important than the people that are actually providing it its living. So Twitch in itself is not worth much money, but is valued at $2.5 billion. But if all of its content providers suddenly stopped uploading their videos, playing games on their channel, how much would they be worth? Not much. They've got 2 offices. So maybe you can get $1 million out of them. The value is in the content provider. It's not in the platform. And in fact, the reason why you see the numbers dropping in certain so-called dominant platforms is because people are finding it hard to do their dream. And the dream is that they want to provide content, if it's playing a game or if it's showing people how to do something or just doing their favorite hobby and having it watched. They're finding it harder and harder to make enough money to do it full time. And what we want to provide is the ability for everyone to do it full time. So the way to do that is to remember that the influencer, the content provider, the person who uploads the picture, the person who uploads the video, the person that is playing something or doing something, live streaming it, they are the value, not the platform. They're the valuable person. The people that make the games that people want to play, they are the valuable person in this. So if we just take an example. Here's last year's numbers. So Instagram's doing very well, 800 million. But every time someone likes a picture on Instagram, what's their reward? It's not money. Facebook, you like someone's picture, you say happy birthday to someone, what do you get paid? Nothing. Why not? Your data is of value, isn't it? Because these platforms don't exist without an audience. They don't exist without people talking about what they're doing, what they like. So they should be rewarded. So this is a really interesting number. Generation Z, I like to view it as basically people that are 25 or younger. So in other words, everyone that's old enough to be my grandchildren. 5 billion hours a day. 5 billion hours a day is what they are spending watching, uploading, liking, disliking. 5 billion hours a day. That's not the world, that's just people that are 25 years old or younger. This is a tremendous number. Now, if I say 5 billion, it's difficult to imagine. So think of this. In a year, there aren't 1 million minutes. There's not 1 million minutes in a year. So if you can imagine 5 billion hours a day, but what are they getting out of it? Well, at the moment, none of these channels are paying them. Now, if you were able to become a Twitch partner, then you can indeed make some money. But you can't make money out of YouTube anymore unless you've got millions of people looking at you. And the terms and conditions for these companies keeps changing, but they never seem to change so that it's easier to make money. It's always harder. So at the moment, we've got people that are using the different styles of social platform depending on what they're doing. So my daughter spends loads of time on Snapchat. She's always on Snapchat. My wife spends a lot of time on YouTube. I spend no time on any of those, but I'm always on Twitch because I'm playing something or watching something. But wouldn't it be easier if, rather than having to try and monetize what you're doing as a content creator and as an influencer, to do it in one platform rather than all of these different platforms? Because, of course, you have to keep updating what you're doing on Twitter, don't you? To try and drive people to come and watch what you're doing or like what you're doing. So if we take a few examples of some of the people that have become these huge influencers, but the platform isn't important. We're interested in them. When Ninja moved to Mixer for $7.5 million, did it have a dramatic effect on the number of people watching him? Did it go down? Not really. Why? Because the platform wasn't important. If you like Ninja, you go where Ninja is. So this is a good example of why the influencer needs to be the center of attention on the future platforms. So I want to skip through this because no one cares what I'm doing. But if we use blockchain as the basis for how we actually start building new social media platforms, it means that we can address an important issue, which is privacy. So your personal information, we know, has been sold by all of these companies to people you don't know who they are. And that's not acceptable anymore, especially for Generation Z, because they're smart enough to know that if they put everything about their life on Facebook, that means everybody knows everything about them, and they will advertise to them until they die. But if you're using blockchain as the background, everything is encrypted, which means that you can indeed change social media platform. From now on, you can decide, as the influencer, as the content creator, as the audience, how much of your information is available. And if you let some of your information become available, you should be rewarded. You should be rewarded because it's valuable, isn't it? Otherwise, why would people advertise on these social media platforms? It's because you are of value, so why are you not being paid? It's because the social media platform is wrong. The social media platforms at the moment are all only interested in their shareholders and the advertisers, which is not a crime, but it means that they are losing the opportunity to actually benefit the social media platform. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you were able to take your brand, your advertisers, your influence, and your users and bring them all together, what could you do for them? Well, we know that the influencers are demanding a change. So people that are providing this great content, they're finding it harder to make money. So we need to address that. Howdoo is set to change the face of social media and social platforms, because what we're providing people with is actually a token. So every time that you watch something, when you change your personality by using the Drexler platform and you become this music star, or if you just like watching someone who is trying to be a music star, you receive a token. And what's that token going to do? Well, you immediately turn it into cash. Yeah. So if you now use the Howdoo platform and you're watching someone that you like, you are being rewarded not just by watching someone who's a good influencer or does something you like and you're being entertained, you are receiving tokens for doing it that you can turn into money. If you are the person that's actually uploading the content, well then you get rewarded with more tokens than the person watching, which makes sense, doesn't it? Because you're doing the hard work. But that means that you should be able to have a card that you can use to draw out cash from a machine. It's a card that you can use to buy your shopping with. Then it makes a real difference to you. Then you are now properly valued. So the way the Howdoo platform works is, when you are there, what you'll be able to do is, if you're contacted, it will say, would you be willing to watch an advert from? And you say yes or no. But if you say yes, you're paid. Because you're valuable, aren't you? Of course you are. If they say to you, oh, we'd like to send you an email, you can say yes or no. But if you say yes, you're going to be paid. Now, the advertisers like that, because at the moment, all they get is they have to pay for pay-per-click. That's all they've got the option of having. And it's not working out very well for them. It costs them a lot of money to basically throw everything out there to get the few people that they actually want. But you now know how valuable you are. So you can let the people you want to hear from know about you and be paid for it. And if you're someone that uploads and you have subscribers, how much of the subscription fee should you get, seeing that you're doing all the work? Well, if you're lucky, Twitch might give you 50%. I'm a Twitch partner, so I get 50%. But only after I get $100 worth, and then I'm taxed. Okay, well, with Howdoo, if someone gives you $4.99 a month, you get 90%. Because you should do, shouldn't you? You're the content provider. You're the only reason the platform exists, the only reason the advertisers are interested. So you get 90% of the money. If someone tips you on Howdoo, how much of the tip should you get? 100%. Of course you should. It's a tip to you. When you tip your waiter, how much is his management supposed to take? I'm tipping him or her. I'm not tipping management. I want them to get it. They gave me a good service. So if you receive a tip on the Howdoo platform, the same. You keep all of it. Advertising. So therefore, when someone does advertise and some of your audience watch it, how much of the advertising revenue should you get? You get 60%. Because you're the reason that anyone has even advertised in the first place, so you should get more. This should not be something new, but it is. And the reason it's changing, because the audience are changing. The audience is understanding its value. They're understanding what they should receive. And it means that not just content creators will be rewarded, but now the audience will be rewarded as well. That's the exciting thing. So, of course, I'm interested in gaming. I do gaming. I'm head of gaming. But let's just think about this. If you had a social media platform and you wanted to learn a new language, you are now being paid to learn a new language. Because every time you watch the video helping you learn, you're receiving tokens. So you're being paid to learn. How exciting is that? That is what will really revolutionize and change social media, when everyone is valued for what they bring. So imagine now that you're a writer, and we know it can be difficult to make a living as a writer now, because somebody turns it into a PDF, puts it on a Russian website, and everyone gets it for free. Well, what if you have your book actually on a social media platform, and the person actually receives a reward for reading it or downloading it from the social platform? Rather than just getting it for free, they get it for free and they're paid. And of course, every time someone comes to the platform and actually takes the book, the author is rewarded because they've uploaded it. Can you see how we're really, really changing everything here? We want everyone to be truly valued. And we have to have the safeguards, so we have to have the security. That's why the back end is blockchain. We're using cryptocurrency so that everyone can change the tokens into their local currency, not just dollar or pound or euro, Wherever they live in the world, they can turn it into the currency that's of value to them, because they are the one that is valued. So we're hoping that from talking to you about M-Media today, what we're saying is it isn't just a change, it's not just fluffy words about the philosophy of how the future's going to change, the generations change, their expectations change. Social media has to change. We have to reward people that are uploading the content. We have to reward people that are watching it. We have to reward everybody that's involved in it, so then the community will grow. And for those who are interested in that community, essentially advertisers, they get the value because they'll only be talking to people that have said, you can talk to me, rather than being forced to watch a 30-second advert about something you're not interested in. So thank you.